within our story and within the script is that they just naturally have some really lighthearted bits, but I don't think playing Nori or playing those, like portraying those scenes that I was ever thinking, make it lighthearted, make it comedic. It was just by nature, that's just how the scenes were written. And then we really do have some quite vulnerable, really quite dark scenes within that as well.
And we actually try to give them, in some ways, a direction that cuts against the grain of that. Like, because we find that, like, if, Harfoots by nature are kind of cute because they're sort of small and they're, they're quirky. And if you play it too cutesy, it's sort of sugar on top of sugar, and it ends up feeling like too much. If they just be who they are, and if they're just natural, it will come off as cute because it just simply is.
Yes. I was just gonna say, it looks very natural to us as audience.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
And I love the chemistry that you two have. Did you do any exercise for it, or you just hit off at the first time you met?
Yeah.
What about your chemistry? Did you do any exercises as some actors do to build that chemistry, or was it just your personal equation?
I think a bit of both, for sure. When we first met, there was instant chemistry, I think, between us. We didn't do a chemistry test, so we met in New Zealand, and thankfully it worked out. But we did lots of improvisation and workshops in the first season with JA and the showrunners, and just kind of, we did a lot of improv then, actually. And we sort of like improvised within sort of some of the scenes that the showrunners gave us. And then, just kind of did sort of character creation together. It was really nice.
And scenes that didn't exist as well. We particularly with JA, we just made up scenes in the rehearsals.
Yeah.
We're talking a lot of the rings of power. You are watching me on NDTV. My name is Arun Singh with JD, the showrunner. And of course, we have supremely talented Markella and Megan. Very warm welcome to NDTV.
Thank you.
As a warm-up, we'll start with some punny riddles.
Right.
Okay, here we go.
Riddle in the morning.
Why are Harfoots so humble?
Because
they never sell themselves short? I don't know.
That's a good one. That's a good
Very
one.
nice.
That's a good one.
Very nice.
Although my answer was they are down to earth.
Down to earth.
Oh, very nice.
We have another
Very
one.
nice.
We have another one. Why is Eleanor so active?
Because I'm terrible with riddles.
I'm
I
really
am the worst.
Always on her foot.
I like it.
Very nice.
Very nice.
Now, of course, the overall theme of the series is dark. How did you balance it, if you had to, with the comedic themes that these two characters bring?
Well, their world is one of the joyful worlds to spend time in. I think whenever they come on screen, people just smile because they have such a fun energy together. They have such fun energy as characters. They play really well with the stranger together, and you need that in Tolkien's world. It's the smaller and sort of simpler creatures in the world that just can hold on to those basic human values like hope and friendship that ultimately can prove stronger even than armies or the Dark Lord himself.
And comedy is mostly about improvisation as well. Were there any moments where you were improvising as actors, or was it to the T? Was it?
I mean,
between like moments, I mean, it was more sort of just like fluidity, but no improv, I don't think.
I don't
Not that I can remember.
I feel like we definitely added certain kind of. We've definitely played within the structure of the lines for sure, but I think we improvised with intention, but we definitely honored the script.
Yeah.
Was there any lighthearted moment that will stay with you from the sets?
I mean, most of them. Yeah, most of the time.
Anyone that you can share with us?
Oh, I mean, we had lots of amazing new casts that joined us, and they were really, really fun. We had like lots of of big group scenes, and we worked closely with Tanya Moody, for example, and she is so funny.
Without even like intending to sometimes.
No, just her natural personality.
She's just hilarious.
So fab.
Yeah.
Yep.
And as I asked JD about,
This is India Global. I'm Gaurie Dwivedi. Let's get you the headlines this evening. First up, Bangladesh opposition party protests demands fresh polls even as Yunus government grants policing powers to the Bangladesh army. Former US President Donald Trump slams India as very big abuser of trade ties. Donald Trump, Prime Minister Modi likely set to meet on the sidelines of the Quad meeting next week. Israel behind the Lebanon pager attack in the Mossad IDF operation. Hezbollah vows to punish Israel after explosions killed 12 people. Taiwan's Gold Apollo denies producing those pagers. And China sanctions 9 US firms over weapons sales to Taiwan. US firms hit with property freeze over arms sale to Taiwan. Our big story that we are tracking on India Global today, coming in from Bangladesh, the latest that's happening there. Well, the opposition party, that is the BNP, the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, is demanding immediate polls after Sheikh Hasina's ouster last month. Remember, on 5th of August is when Sheikh Hasina fled Bangladesh. And since then, while there is an interim government, there is no clear path as to when those elections will take place. Now, clamour grows for those much needed electoral framework and the democratic framework to be restored, even as there are now reports indicating that the Bangladesh army has been emboldened by Mohammad Yunus, and there are now efforts made to ensure that the Bangladesh army has more powers, whether it's policing or magistral powers, unlike what it had earlier. So what does this mean for Bangladesh? Where is it headed? At a time when there is clamour for elections and clamour for polls, the Bangladesh interim government is in fact moving towards providing greater policing powers to the army. All right, let's open this up. Let's get in Rumeen Farhana, who is former opposition leader of opposition of Bangladesh, and we also have Salim Samad, senior journalist, Bangladesh. In fact, Rumeen, let me start with you, ma'am. Let me come to you first on this. Now, what is happening in Bangladesh? Two of these reports, they are very conflicting or counterintuitive, one would say. At a time when there is a groundswell for elections, the interim government is moving towards providing more police powers to the army, away from what many would say the democratic framework that is needed right now. How do you read this?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for inviting me. You know, yesterday we had a big rally, and in that rally, our acting chairman, he addressed our party members, and he made it absolutely clear that this government cannot fail, because this is the government of the people and it came through revolution. So we have a very high expectation in this government, but at the same time, we cannot forget that whatever reforms we are talking about, whatever reforms the government is planning to do, it can best be done by someone who is elected by the people. So that is the reason we are asking for an election. But of course, we are not saying that election has to be given within 2 months or 3 months or something like that. But we need a time frame. We need a roadmap to know what this government is actually planning to do. Because in last 15 years, we were under such an autocrat government that all our institutions, including the Election Commission, the judiciary, all has become so.
But Ms. Farhana, then are you upset? Are you upset with Mohammad Yunus's government that elections are not happening? Are you disappointed?
No,
are you
we
upset?
are not upset. No, not at all. We are not upset. What we are trying to say is a roadmap would make it more clear. For example, if they say that we have this plan as our short-term plan, our mid-term plan, and our long-term plan, then I think the confusions will be
Then let me ask you this, ma'am. How long are you open to waiting for elections to be restored? How long do you think BNP and the BNP cadre, which is seeking an early election, open to waiting for as and when elections take place?
Reasonable reforms has to be done. For example, our election commission, there is no election commission in Bangladesh now. So we need an election commission for holding a free, fair, inclusive one. We need an administration which is neutral and which will give all the parties equal opportunity to work for the election. So these reforms need to be done before election. But at the same time, we are saying that there cannot be an infinite period given to this government. I mean, that's why I was talking about this long-term, short-term, and mid-term plan.
Ms. Farhana, would you be okay with an election not happening maybe in the next 1 year, 2 years, even longer? Because some of the reforms that the government is talking about may not happen overnight. So is the BNP willing to wait for, let's say, a couple of years for democracy to be restored?
Of course, we understand that the reforms that we are talking about cannot be taken place overnight. But that doesn't mean that it will take, more than a year. I think the reasonable time could be 6 months to 1 year max, because you need to reset the administration. You need to, bring the neutral and honest officers in the administration and police. You need to constitute an election commission. And I think after that, you can go for election. And other reforms can be done by someone who has been elected by the people.
That's a very important point that you're making, which is that 6 months, at best a year, is the maximum that the BNP, the cadre, or in fact the people would wait before elections, or by when elections must happen, democracy must be restored. Let me take a quick reaction from Salim. Ms. Farhana, I come back to you because I want to ask you about the fact that while on one end, the revolution, the protest, the groundswell was actually amongst the people, the students, but they don't seem to find a reflection in the government or the decision making. Okay, let's also keep Ms. Farhana in the frame. Salim, explain to us is there a backlash that the government is facing by giving additional powers of policing and magistral powers to the Bangladesh army? How are the people reacting to it? Because are they in favor of this kind of a change happening? Is this what the protest and the revolution was all about?
Thank you for having me, and good evening. First of all, it is very important to understand the situation. 60% of the police have not reported. They are either hiding or they have fled, and some of them has been accused for shot and killed the students. So that number is of course very, very less than supposed to be. First of all, it is the military has to step in. For you have to have must have heard that all the police stations have been vandalized and the weapons have been stolen. So the government doesn't know who has stolen the weapons and where are the weapons. So there is a crackdown. So this is one area. And of course, you will be understanding that there is a vacuum. Vacuum means wherever the previous autocratic regime, the Awami League, has been
okay,
extortion.
I think that now regime is history. We should now look forward and talk more about the future of Bangladesh rather than talking about Sheikh Hasina. And Ms. Farhana, let me ask you this question as well, that the additional powers that have been given to the Bangladesh army, it is meant to ensure that violence is curtailed and contained. But how are the people reacting to it? Because, the protest, the revolution, I'm sure that they did not ask for more powers to be given to the Bangladesh army. They wanted a greater say in their democratic decision making and not having a more powerful Bangladesh army.
One thing I think it should be very clear at the first sight, because this power is already there in CRPC. So it's nothing new. We have seen that during election time, this kind of power has been given to army in order to, execute a free and violence-less election. So the situation, if we see on the ground, you can see that the stability, the law and order situation, it's not up to the mark, because as my friend was saying that 60% of the police, they are still hesitant to join in their work. So in order to settle this law and order situation, and as well as in order to bring back the stability, this kind of power, I think, will assist the government to achieve the goal.
But Ms. Farhana, then it brings me to ask you this fact that what is the reason for normalcy not being restored? Because 5th of August now seems fairly far back in time now. You know, things are pretty much working towards normalcy. There is also now global aid, international aid that's coming in. There's talk of restoration of better ties with neighbors. All that is happening. So why is it that Bangladesh's internal dynamics are not coming close to normalcy? And why is it that the local police and local administration work is also now being handed over to the army?
Okay, I'm sorry, but I can't help myself mentioning the name of Sheikh Hasina again. If you can remember, in 1991, when she was in the opposition, she publicly declared that I will not let this government run smoothly even for a day. And now she has been ousted from the country. She has taken refuge to India. And now we have seen the unrest that is going on from day one. We have seen the answers. They are trying to do some, coup or something like that. We have faced the unrest in industrial area like Shawar, Ashulia every day. We have seen the police is not working either because of fear or because they are not willing to cooperate the government. So this is the situation. This is the reality now. So I think people are happy as long as the law and order situation is okay, as long as the stability is there. People doesn't have any problem with this army being given some extra power.
Okay, so then can I say this, and then I ask this to Salim as well, which is that the people are not afraid at all that Bangladesh may possibly inch towards a police state given the extra powers being handed over to the Bangladesh army?
Not at all. Bangladesh was a police state till 5th August 2024, but after that Bangladesh is no longer a police state.
Okay, okay. Salim, respond to that as well.
Bangladesh was always a police state. I mean, if you are talking about there are different regimes who are in power. But what I am trying to tell you that in 2002, the BNP government had deployed military for anti-crime operation. And of course, let's not discuss about what happened. So that is another issue. So this is the different regime has deployed military for law and order situation. So I don't think that it will be very different from the previous government's previous deployment of military for the law and order situation.
Okay, I'm going to wrap this up, but final word, Ms. Farhana, running out of time quickly, which is that what would be your wish list from Muhammad Yunus's government? Because you said you want elections probably max in a year, but in the interim, what would be that one reform that you would want the government to implement that could pave the way for elections to take place?
The reform of the Election Commission, the reform of the judiciary, the reform of the administration. These three sectors have suffered the most, and I hope that this new government, this interim government, will help to build these three institutions in this short time.
All right, that's quite a bucket list. Let's see how much of that gets implemented in the time frame that we are looking at. But appreciate, Rumeen Farhana, for you to join me on this India Global Edition, and also Salim Samad from Bangladesh to get a sense of how things are unfolding in Bangladesh. We slip into a very short break. We come back on the other side and talk more about, well, what's the latest as far as the India-US trade relationship is concerned, and why Donald Trump is now talking down to India when it comes to the trade dynamics. We talk more on that after this very short break. Stay with us.
This is an urgent appeal to support children in Yemen. Years of conflict have caused devastating shortages of food and water and pushed the health system to the brink of collapse. Now millions of children are acutely malnourished and need urgent treatment. Search UNICEF Yemen online, text Yemen to 85525 or scan the QR code to find out how you can help. Just £10 could help provide life-saving therapeutic food for one child for 1 week. I've seen UNICEF's work in emergencies and the difference your donation can make in responding to crisis around the world. UNICEF teams are working non-stop to provide life-saving supplies like medicine, therapeutic food and clean water. With support from people like you, we can help many more children recover and thrive. So please search UNICEF Yemen online or text Yemen to 85525 and help protect children in Yemen today. Thank you.
Mum and Dad love Bright Sun Travel. They book all their trips through them. Mum's business trips, fly drives or city breaks. I love beach holidays the best, and so does my dad.
For business, leisure or fun, call Bright Sun at all protected.
When you're setting up a new nest, starting your own flock, or they just keep on growing. Get the flexibility you need with Very Pay. Pay now, pay later, or pay over 3 months and pay no interest. We'll even send you helpful payment reminders. Shop the online store for fashion, home and more. Very Pay. Ways to pay that work your way.
At Vision Express, I step out feeling confident.
Pay monthly with the Vision Express Eye Care Plan. For a limited time, save 25% on glasses, which means you get 2 pairs from just £5.40 a month. Plus a free advanced eye test, including an OCT 3D scan, breakage and loss protection, and more. Terms and conditions apply. Vision Express. Express your vision.
You could save money on your energy, broadband and mobile bills and feel more protected when you switch to a better deal. Switch and save now at uswitch.com.
Do you need to borrow money? Then you've come to the right place. Everyday Loans. Representative APR 99.9%. Apply now at everydayloans.co.uk.
Let's turn our focus now to the other big story that we are tracking, which is the India-US trade dynamics. Now, well, Donald Trump said many things about India. He said, he also had something really good to say about Prime Minister Modi. He said that he's a fantastic leader. Then he also spoke at length about India. But there's one thing which he prominently spoke about, which is the trade dynamics and also how India is a quote-unquote very big abuser of India-US trade ties. Well, there's the two leaders, that is Prime Minister Modi and former President Donald Trump, are set to meet in US when Prime Minister Modi will be there for a visit, even as he's made it, Donald Trump has made it absolutely clear that in his administration, expect more tariffs. In fact, he goes on to say that 200% tariffs could be levied on specific items. Listen in to what Donald Trump had to say. We come back and talk more specifically about the India-US trade relationship and how it could pan out in a Trump 2.0 administration.
So when India, which is a very big abuser, he happens to be coming to meet me next week, and Modi, he's fantastic. I mean, fantastic man. A lot of these leaders are fantastic. You have to understand one thing. They're 100%. These people are the sharpest people. They're not a little bit backward. They are at the top. You know the expression, they're at the top of their game, and they use it against us. But India is very tough. Brazil's very tough. There are certain countries, I can tell you everyone, I can give you from top to bottom.
All right, that's our big debate. And in fact, the questions that we are asking as far as India Global, we can have that on our screens, which is that do facts back Trump's accusations when it comes to India's trade relationship? Secondly, what will the India-US ties look like under Trump 2.0? And thirdly, how will high US trade tariffs, of course, impact the Indian market? We have Well, I have Dilip Sinha, who's former permanent representative of India to the UN, and we also have Jayant Krishna, senior fellow at the CSIS. Gentlemen, thank you so much for taking out the time and speaking to me on India Global. Let me start with you, Jayant Krishna. Some of the commentary that Donald Trump made in his first presidency, he said that India was tariff king. He also in 2019 terminated India's preferential access, which is the generalized system of preferences. So there's a history of how Trump treats trade relationship with India. Do you expect that to be doubled down in, if at all he comes back to power in his second term with India?
See, if you look at, yes, the history of relationship between India and the US with Trump as the leader, if that was any indication. So, I mean, look at Trump invariably takes decisions, which favor the US business, and he doesn't care much about, how the relationship with the other countries, emerge. But, having said so, I mean, the fact is, even if you look at our chief economic advisor, Government of India's, he talks about that the average applied, tariff, on merchandise products that India has, obviously for all countries put together, that average rate is about 8.3%. If you see the same rate in China, it is lower than us, it's 7.5%. The US import, the average tariff is about 3.4%. So India's import tariff has been high. There is no doubt about that, and one reason is that India has been trying to protect its domestic industry, but somehow I don't subscribe to that viewpoint of India at all, because, what happens if you protect your domestic industry beyond the point by having a high import duty? Obviously, the likes of Trump will always keep talking about it. But the fact is, lot of our exports, which are dependent on imports from other countries, US, China, and Europe, European Union, and elsewhere, they get adversely impacted. So you have to have a reasonable import duty, and just by raising the duty, you don't necessarily patronize and help local industry. So I think
that's a single specific view, because most of these import duties are particularly with regard to steel and some of those sectors where a lot of effort has been made to ensure that the industrial capacity at home is protected. But Jayant Krishna, the larger question, some of what Dilip Sinha some of what Jayant Krishna is saying right now is not new. It has already been said. It was said in the previous administration as well that India needs to open up. But the question is, this is only for specific industries, whether it is steel, whether it is power, it is those specific industries. It's not across the board. India's import duties, yes, you can take out an average, but some of the other sectors we've opened up completely. So is the commentary by Donald Trump, do you think, justified, or do you think it's just, painting everything with too broad strokes?
Are you asking me, Gaurie?
Yes, sir, I'm asking you.
Yes. Okay, I would read Donald Trump's statement as part of his election campaign, because the point that I think he was trying to make was that he is the one person who's capable of dealing with these strong leaders outside. He kept emphasizing that leaders outside are very strong, they're very clever. And he was trying to, I think, make the point that he has the experience to deal with these strong leaders, which means that by comparison, the Vice President Kamala Harris does not have that kind of experience of that quality. So I would read in that context. So it is true that Trump is very protectionist, and he's also slightly isolationist. But the policy on protectionism has become bipartisan in the US. President Biden has broadly continued Trump's policies. And the primary concern that America has in this is China, because the deficit to China is very high. And the exports from China to America are about 8-9 times India's exports. India also has a trade surplus with the US, and India must ensure that that trade surplus does not become a trade dispute, because America is our largest market and we need this market. So we will have to, of course, keep the Americans in good humor to ensure that
Are you saying a lot of this is trade rhetoric? Are you saying a lot of this is actually election rhetoric?
Yes, as I said, that the Trump's statement right now is clearly electoral rhetoric, because he wants to show to the American people that he is the leader who is strong enough to deal with tough leaders around the world, which is why he said that India is an abusive country, which means that India needs to be dealt with in a tough manner. And he's the person who can deal with India in a tough manner. And he also he's met other leaders, and he mentioned that there are other leaders who are extremely tough and extremely clever. So he wants to tell the American voters that if they want a strong leader, which is what America needs today, it is he and not Kamala Harris.
All right, I'm afraid we're completely out of time. Thanks much, gentlemen, for taking out the time in this edition of India Global. With that, it's a wrap. To viewers, thank you so much for tuning in.
By the time I was 9, I stopped dreaming of ever starting school, of knowing how to read, of learning how to write. But I was wrong to ever stop believing.
Save the children. Lasting change starts here.
With Post Office Over 50s life cover, enjoy peace of mind knowing your family will receive a guaranteed payout when you're gone. UK resident 50 to 80, you're guaranteed acceptance. No health checks and from just £1.15 a week. Plus free 24/7 GP access with the health and wellbeing benefit. Purchase and receive a £125 gift card for amazon.co.uk, Tesco or M&S. Call Post Office on 0800 171 2211.
At Tesco Mobile, our deals are so good you'll want to tell everyone. Oops. Get the Samsung Galaxy S23 FE with Buds FE for just £27.99 a month with Club Card prices, saving you a whopping £306. And that price is frozen for your whole contract. Join the customers who saved £9.5 million with frozen prices last year. It pays to be connected. Search Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
He's gorgeous.
And I would do anything for love. Oh, I would do anything.
You do anything and everything for your pets. So do we. That's why more